Hello and welcome to Michael Pepper Tech. Today's video is a discussion about Gemini and how Apple is looking to work with Google for this. I don't think this is Apple admitting any sort of defeat. I think this is Apple looking and seeing where the current state of that is and saying that we want to be at that point and we're willing to pay and work with other companies in order to gain access to that. But I also think it's Google doing the same thing. If we think about it, Google pays around $20 billion a year to Apple to be the default search engine. That means every Siri inquiry that goes out of the web, by default, unless you change the default search engine on your iPhone, is through Google, and Google gets that data. That means every time you open Safari to do a search in the address bar, it's going to go to Google first. It's not going to Bing. It's not going to DuckDuckGo. It's not going to Yahoo. It's not going to some other source. It's going to Google by default unless you change that. They make easily 10 times that back in the data that they get and the ads that they feed to you when you do these searches. These are numbers that you can find out there that are known. Apple's benefit is they've purchased dozens and dozens of small AI companies to get access to those patents, to get access to how they're doing things. And now they can gain a little bit of insight into how Gemini works, because if they're working alongside Google and then Google is saying, okay, this is how it works, they can get a little bit of that inside information. Now, where they have to be careful is that there's no collusion, that there's no kind of idea that Google and Apple are working together and that other companies can't compete because they have all this money and Google has the default search and Google Assistant is the default on Android, and now they're going to be the default for everything on an iPhone as far as search engine and even Siri, but they already kind of are. And the user has a choice. We're seeing Google and Apple and Samsung and Microsoft and these companies are already working together as far as things like now Nearby Share is one thing across all Android devices instead of the basic Android version, and then Samsung does their own version. We're seeing Matter support for things like cameras. I have Eufy brand cameras, HomeKit, Amazon's Alexa, and Google Assistant have been working on there. But on the Google Home side, you would have to open the Eufy app if you wanted to see the video feed of it. If you asked Google to show you the video feed, like if I said, hey, show me my office, it would not show me the cameras. It would just say you needed to open the other app. You'd have to go in and open the Eufy app. Or it would say on what device. So I could ask Google to do it and show it to me on my TV because of the Chromecast plugged in, and then it would do it through that way, or on my Google Hub, and then it would do it that way, but it wouldn't show it within the app on their device, within the Google Home app, or, on an iPhone or an Android device. Now it does, where they're working together. The next thing we're seeing is the Find My network, where they're working together. We're seeing these companies finally come together. I think it's because they realize that they can benefit from each other. And Apple keeps their money by investing it wisely. They bought Siri to begin with so they could start where Siri was. Now, yeah, Siri doesn't do some of the things that Google Assistant does really well better, but Siri does some of the on-device things equally as well and sometimes better. I have situations where if I ask Siri to do certain things, as far as for HomeKit support, it shows it. But if I ask Google to do it for the same products, for the same devices, for the same support, it will say that I need to add the device to my home, and it already has been done. And I've had to redo everything multiple times. I've had more issues with that. On device stuff, I've had issues where if you put it in an airplane mode, that it won't turn it back off. But on my iPhone, I can enable airplane mode because it does on-device stuff more and more. And I know that depends on what Android device you're talking about, and some of that's improved. So where Siri is better than Google, in some things Google is better than Siri in other things. And so for them to work together creates a balance, creates a unity, and also Google benefits from this equally as much as Apple, if not more, because they get access to all that data. If we think about 80+% of teenagers using iPhones in the United States, other countries in that same age range, the 18 to 25 and 30 range, iPhone users being a majority in a lot of these countries where Google AI is supported, benefits Google to have access to that, because otherwise that means they're getting a minority of the data from the Android devices that are out there and having to wait longer or rely on less data while Apple continues to get more data, or they have to rely on it coming through Siri inquiries rather than a direct source. So this benefits both companies, and that's where I see this going. And it's great to see that companies are working more and more together. And I don't think that Apple doing this is saying like, hey, we're behind. I think they're saying, hey, we recognize that Google does certain things really well. My concern now is Gemini sucks speed-wise and in comparison for basic tasks. There's certain things that it can't do that Google Assistant does better, creating some like lists for stores and things like that. As a matter of fact, Siri does that better with Apple's version of like their lists as far as like bringing things up. So if I want to add a store list with Siri, it does that better than Gemini does, and it does it on device. Right now, Gemini relies on a lot of server-side stuff partially because Google can't guarantee that the hardware the Android manufacturers are using is going to be fast enough to support it. Now we're seeing a handful of devices that are doing that, and we saw the Snapdragon 8S Gen 3 come out talking about more integration with AI, and that's a discussion for a future thing. So let me know what you think down below. Is this Apple saying, oh, we admit defeat, we throw our hands in the air, white flag, Google help us? Or is this a mutually beneficial experience between them? If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. Also, consider hitting up the links down below. I do have a Patreon account where I type up articles and talk about further things. I post some photos on there. I have some content that most of it's available for free, but I do some paid stuff where you get access to that first. I'll have some content on there that's only going to be paid for my paid membership starting now. $2.99 a month. You can help me out. It's very little, and it's awesome. And you get a shout out in videos like this. Thanks to Tech for Your Needs for being a Patreon. As always, I don't only talk tech, I live it. Peace and love. See y'all in the next video. Thanks for watching so much, and have a wonderful day.